This conference will now be recorded.
Hola. How are you?
Doesn't explain how.
How's it going?
Harmonious, what does that mean? Yeah, or harmonious. We kumbaya after every meeting. I'm on the phone. Every meeting, we kumbaya after. Where? Okay. It looks like I have a white cloud. Okay, love you. I'll talk to you later.
Did we not for the,
Shailia says hi.
who's that?
Shailia. Why?
Oh, yeah. Does she live here in town?
Mhm. She moved to Haber for a while, but she was back and forth. Her son's a sophomore, no, maybe a senior.
Was that the lady that was rolling with Kelly's wife?
She was there. I'm not sure. She was with her husband.
Do you have a bell on your door?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, it's just that you can't walk up on me while I'm doing something, so it makes sure that I pay attention.
What are you doing there, John?
What's that?
What are you doing there? Sorry. He said
It's all video recorded, so you know.
ooh. Can I ask for those tapes?
Hi.
Sure, you can ask. Go to public records request and we'll see where that goes.
Oh, somebody came to me and said that there is a new trailer in like Windsor Dawns area.
In what?
What, Wendell Baker's area.
Yeah, can't do anything with that. That's out of city limits.
Oh, they're out of city
They're out of
limits.
city limits. The end of North Second Street there, right at the gate.
What about permits? Nothing?
No.
Nothing comes through us.
They are completely out of city limits.
Yeah, I guess they put a new trailer in the middle of the night.
Yep.
No water or sewer. There's people just pooping.
I
next
saw
to
him
it.
rolling that thing into town.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is mortifying if you go back there.
I don't want to drive by it. Somebody has like complained twice to me about it and I was like, they're like, just drive by it. I'm like,
You can't do it. It's
you
literally.
can't unsee that.
It's literally in the county, so we won't touch it. We've already tried.
What about the new guy?
The ambulance not gonna do it.
Well, there's a new guy right now though that's,
Well, it's Van's sidekick. Van's still running everything from
the other guy was so
Texas,
cool.
whoever he is.
Joe, the other kid with the ponytail, he was so cool. This new one's interesting.
Is Joe already done?
He's gonna go to tech. He left. There's some new guy. He came in and introduced himself, but I wasn't there. Mom had to deal with it.
Lisa won't be with us. She'll be remoting in.
No?
Lisa. You got that whole space to yourself for it.
Good time to know. Do it.
Bring a pillow on the sleeping bag, dude.
John's not here either.
Yeah.
Did he have surgery or something? Yeah. Oh,
He had to go up tonight to get his labs done and everything else.
Bozeman or where? Helena.
Billings,
Thanks, Lou.
he's getting his carotid arteries cleaned out.
Should be pretty minor. I mean, anything could possibly, can't really, but he's not, he's had everything.
He's never going anywhere, you guys.
What's done to him already?
He is not going anywhere.
Well, fine already.
When you really think about all the stuff that he's had, just the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah, he is extremely lucky.
Did we not, I asked Ginger about the
Hmm?
Three Rivers annexation and they didn't we talk about boulevard trees?
Oh, yeah, I read that when I read it. Yeah, I was like, that's her though. Do you know her at all?
No.
That's her. I was like, oh, you didn't reread this before you sent it? There's so many better words, right?
I thought we mentioned they were gonna do like a landscape plan or a.
I thought when he was going
That was
off, he was
the-
talking about a wood fence and all that stuff anyway.
Yeah, the landscaping plan that was on the other one. The one with the 5-plex. I remember us talking about that one.
No, but he had talked about all kinds of way better stuff than what was originally talked about. He said a better fence and it's not in the minutes, but he did talk about more stuff. A nicer fence and,
Well, could we put that?
Yeah, when we get to the annexation, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. When we go into the Three
We
Rivers
just wanna know what we're
annexation,
doing.
we're gonna ask for that stuff.
Josh, how's Bozeman? Lovely. Yeah.
Busy.
whatever. My girlfriend lives there now. I'm probably gonna be moving there soon.
no. Can I have your house?
Sure.
For free.
Yep. Yeah.
I need to stay in city limits. Look me up, Corey.
Well,
I think for $326 a month, we should have a copier that
Right?
copies color and orients it straight so we can view it.
I was thinking that's so much money on copy machines. So much money. What did
What do you
your
like?
shoes say?
Montana.
man, yeah. It's another business I have.
Is that the manscaping business? Sorry, Corey, I'll be nice.
I'll block you. Huh? Oh.
Dinner's cutting the shortest.
Where's the annexation property?
It's the one, that was just at the shed, right next to Three Rivers building in Conley. So we can live off of that.
Is there like nothing in it right now?
There's a garage that sits there. right now.
A gross garage.
Shaded garage. that sits on-
So when they put a fence up and stuff, are they gonna fence that other Probably not, huh?
You're asking the wrong person on that. I have no idea.
Is Jason gonna be on again tonight? The Three Rivers guy, is that his name, Jason?
Yeah, I think that was one. I don't know for sure.
What's a ubiquity?
Ubiquity is the name brand of it. Ubiquity, right up here, the little, not above you, right here. That's a Ubiquity, internet connection, so Wi-Fi spot. It's the company that makes this stuff.
Cool. We're getting high tech. I like it.
Yes, we are. Because when you buy the good stuff, it lasts a lot longer and you don't have problems with it.
Sure.
Exactly.
Here you get double digits. You don't even have to take them covered.
Hey, you better.
I don't need to take notes. You can just hit play on this when this is done. Just recording. Let's do this.
Yeah,
I'm
well.
not taking notes. You're not gonna read them.
You'll be here to turn them.
John, do you save those?
Oh, yeah, we're uploaded to YouTube every week.
YouTube?
Yep.
I can watch me on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's go ahead and call the public hearing on annexation request from Three Rivers Communications. And this is just the public comments. We will talk about this as a commission when we get to it on the agenda. This is just for public comments. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Did you hear what we just started with?
Yes, I heard that you were started with the annexation of Three Rivers, the public hearing.
Yes. Okay, perfect. I was just making sure you could hear.
Yes, I can. Thank you. It's actually really good.
Okay, awesome. And like I said, we will discuss this when we get into it on the agenda part. So there's no people here to public comment unless Josh wants to public comment on it.
Who's Matt on WTI? Read, Christie. Oh, I was gonna say who's Matthew, but it's WTI.
Yeah, so it's on that little stretch up there that's not. So.
I know what it is.
Yeah, so that section right there is part of that section where D&D and everything is not actually, it's in the town. So it's the closer property to town right there, so that would.
No, I might need to.
They can unlock whatever they want to unlock. They can unlock themselves.
Do we read it?
I would read it into record.
Okay. All right, one thing we will do is go ahead and read the message from Christy Sturgill into record. Excuse me. I've never received your email. My email lately has been spazzing out, so it may not have put it through. I won't be able to make the meeting tonight, but I wanted to give you my thoughts on the Three Rivers property next door. I'm assuming you will read my statement at the meeting, so I wrote it that way. My name is Christy Sturgill. I live at 204 Comley Way at the corner of Comley and Stephens. I am writing to give feedback on the Three Rivers proposal for the opposite corner of Comley and Stephens. I welcome Three Rivers as our new neighbor. My only concern is their proposed chain link fence of the area. I understand they plan to use the property to store their overflow of materials. Personally, I don't want to look at a gravel lot full of wiring and spools and other such materials. If there's any way they could use a wood or composite material that you can't see through, that would be preferable or preferable. I know the area already has some other storage right across the street from the proposed site, but I would love to see our neighborhood move away from being storage and become more residential looking. When we bought our property 3 years ago, we knew we would be looking at the existing storage areas. I really don't want to add more. The existing structure and trees on the proposed site looks like it's someone's garage, so more of a residential look. I appreciate Three Rivers and the Town Commission listening to my input as a resident living across the street to the proposed site. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Uh-huh.
I should have spit out my candy before I started.
Do we have any public comment on the Three Rivers annexation? Okay. Lisa, where are you at?
I'm in Polaris.
Are you skiing?
Yep,
Okay, I should have known. Did you take your van with you?
not this time around, but soon.
Okay.
Man or man?
Oh, yeah, every day. Here's what I'm up first thing. Oh. What time they were leaving.
Yeah, 6:30 I talked with. He's like, I'll see you on Monday. I'm like, probably Sunday. They had to go today because they had to get blood work done and Then he goes in the morning. His only worry is whether or not you go to the bird dive.
How many hours before surgery are gonna die?
Who writes the public works?
DJ.
We should also do these 5 minutes.
Yeah, you just never. I don't know for sure.
Does anyone have any public comment on the Three Rivers annexation?
Did you change a flat, John?
Did I change the flat?
No, her assist, I'm kidding.
Oh, that one,
You hung out until they got their flat changed.
no, I've changed plenty of tires. I don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit. You pay for my uniform, so it's not like I worry about ruining it.
I'm gonna call you if I get a flat. John?
I have no problem doing it. I've done it many times. What was the date on it? I can tell you what it was.
It said semi. I was just teasing you.
Oh, so that was the guy who he put his chains on his trailer. And he threw the chain and it went through the 2 rear tires. So he was down 2 rear tires and he was fully loaded, but he decided that it was a good idea to stop about 100 feet from the intersection here in the roadway and wait for his tow.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Where'd you make him move?
I brought him over here and just parked him in the lot.
Oh, he sat there all day, yeah.
If he couldn't get, because that was the crappy weather, he couldn't get.
He sat there
over here.
all day, yeah.
So, yeah, so I had him sit over here and then he paid for food and I went and I grabbed him food at Spokane and drove it over to him because the weather was so crappy. He's a nice guy.
Camping in town limits, was that a tent?
No, that was a camper
Um,
and that was previously warned camper.
Oh, I saw that letter or whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
I think there's a few.
I got to catch them. When I catch them, they get the attention.
What do you mean catch them, like going in and out or something?
I have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they're actually sleeping and living in there.
Where was that at?
The one that I wrote was up on Jefferson Street.
Where's Jefferson?
So Jefferson, take First Street, it turns into Jefferson Street.
Oh, when you go up the hill or whatever.
Yeah, it goes on the dirt, once it turns to the dirt, right past Mr. Schroeder's house.
How far is that before you're out of city?
It was 2 more lots and we would have been out of state limits. You
So
go out there,
before-
you'll see, if you go out there, you'll see the last fire hydrant up there, right before Whitney Marsh's house.
I was gonna say before Whitney and Willie.
Yep, right before her house, that's where city limits ends, where that fire hydrant is.
And that goes like straight up to like the yellow house by my house on the highway? Is that where city?
Yes, yeah. Jefferson is the one that dumps out on.
It doesn't go up there, but I'm saying that like
Yes.
shoots up to
Yeah,
that.
just the other side of the creek right there.
Okay, and we're gonna stop for a second. Okay, any public hearing on annexation for Three Rivers?
Public comment, you mean?
Public comment, did I say? I didn't say that. Sorry, public comment for annexation. Okay, with that, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing and open the regular meeting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move to the minutes of the November 2020 meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
I
Uh,
have some, oh, wait, I have some discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
On the minutes, when it's talking about, is it the Lindstrom's lot? Is that the set of minutes we're on?
Yep.
Yes.
So it says that it's plans for a sidewalk. I said that they are to install a sidewalk. So not just plans, they have to install one. A 6-foot sidewalk, the length of the property.
Yeah, that's the first part.
Sure.
No, go to the next page at number
In the
3.
motion.
In the motion.
So Lisa, if I just say a 6-foot sidewalk running the length of the property, which can be on the town right of way?
Yeah, so install, yeah. So I just want to make sure that it's, yeah, that they're putting one in and it's not just plans for one that need to be approved. They have to do it.
Are you good?
Okay, does anyone else have any other discussion on minutes?
I guess I actually did.
That's good.
It was on the annexation of the Three Rivers, what I was just asking earlier about boulevard trees. And I thought we had discussed them putting in boulevard trees.
Corey, as far as I understand, when they're annexing into the zoning area, I believe it's residential, they are considered an essential service, which is a conditional use. So they would have to fill out a conditional use permit or a zoning permit. And so, that's where we can put those conditions of boulevard trees and landscaping plan. If I understand the process.
That sounds correct. You're right. I pulled out the old one. That is exactly right. I had it here just in case. Okay, any other comment on minutes?
I was just looking at the motion that Lisa made, and wouldn't the landscaping and the lighting also fall under the same question that she had? It says they're just plans, but
I would guess, yeah, I did say that their plans, yeah, those landscaping plans and lighting plans need to be approved by the commission.
Sure.
So and it says receiving and approval of.
Yes.
that's before the,
Yeah, so I don't know if plan showing is really wrong because it means that they still need.
Yeah, so they have to, yeah, their plan
they have-
and they have to have plan and approval.
they can't just have the plans, though, they have to implement the plans.
Yes.
Did that answer what you're asking?
You guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
do we
can have-
change them all or do we change,
you
or
can
do
have-
we leave them how they are?
You can have plans, but unless we make them do the plans.
I think that's
But
where the approval comes in. Before they can start building, they have to have a landscaping plan and a lighting plan approved before they start any of their buildings.
Upon receiving an approval.
Yeah, before receiving their permit.
So do we change them all from plans to?
No, this is exactly what it is, because they've got to bring it to us and then we have to approve it before they can start to do all the other things.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry.
No, you're good. I always ask questions if you don't know. Okay, any other discussion on the minutes? Okay, Lisa, you good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, call the vote. Corey? Oh, do you have another one?
No, I was just gonna move to approve, but we already.
You already did.
Yeah, that was discussion. You're good.
Aye.
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, public comment on non-agenda items. We're gonna go ahead and start with Josh.
I'm sorry I didn't get these to you a little bit sooner, but it's just when I got them out, but basically the gist of it is we're going to continue going north with subdivision for single family and multi-family lots. This subdivision starts just north of the park, across the street from Madison Foods, and goes up to Mountain View Drive. And we are right now in the pre-application period, so we're just starting to assemble all the material for the preliminary plat. And if you guys have any comments or questions or anything, I'd be, I'd love to go over any of that with you if you want to go out and do a site visit someday. We can go walk it and see all that, so. I know you haven't had it for long, but I just want to get this stuff in front of you as quickly as I can, so you have time to look at it, come up with questions before we're in the preliminary plat. So.
This is, I'm breaking my rule here a little bit, but this is a little bit, pretty much the same thing that we've looked at in the other phases.
That's correct.
Okay.
So if you, my phone and email are both in that letter, so feel free to reach out and if you have to answer any questions. Now is a good time to address any changes or concerns that you have if we go forward, we get to know them a bit before we get.
We found that out the hard way.
So thank you.
Okay, any other public comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Now we'll go ahead and move to the Three Rivers annexation. Okay, I'll go ahead and read this. Commission Resolution 557-2020, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ennis, Montana, approving the annexation of Block 1, lots 12 and 13, Conley Edition, submitted by Three Rivers Communication. Whereas a petition for annexation of Block 1, lots 12 and 13, Conley Edition, was presented by Three Rivers Communication developer, and whereas the Town Commission, the Commission for the Town of Ennis did call for a public hearing upon said where annexation to be held December 10th, 2020 at the hour of 6:50 p.m. And whereas on the 10th day of December, the town has all necessary reports as required by MCA Title 7, Part 43, annexation of contiguous land by cities and towns. And whereas there being no negative comments regarding this annexation petition at the public hearing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that on December 10th, 2020, at a scheduled meeting of the Town Commission of the Town of Ennis, the commission did approve the petition of annexation of the property described. Okay, and that's the resolution. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ennis, Montana, approving the annexation of Block 1, lots 12, 13, Conley Edition, submitted by Three Rivers Communication.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
We haven't had any negative. Right?
Just Christie, this one here for her.
I don't think
asking
hers
for
is
the
really
fence.
negative. I think that we already asked for the better fence and stuff.
And that's the only thing that I have to.
Was their original plan chain link?
I've got it right here. Well, actually, this isn't, we just got a drawing. They didn't really say, they said,
Just fence?
8 foot tall.
yeah. Do you remember that one?
Mhm.
And that's not really where we would address those kind of issues.
Maybe that's
So
not
this
in the
is
next
just,
level.
nobody objected to annexing it into the city.
Yeah, like she said, they'll be back.
Okay, I'm gonna give John just a second in case Lisa has something for that.
She can unmute herself.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
I don't have
Perfect.
anything.
Do you have
I
any-
think it's a good idea for us to annex in those properties.
Okay, awesome. Is there any other discussion? Okay, we'll call the vote. Jason,
Aye.
Christie,
Hi.
Lisa,
Aye.
Corey.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Do we have paperwork from WTI at all or no?
It's online.
No.
It's just the report,
Is it all
I saw
good?
that. Somebody posted on Facebook.
John.
Yeah.
More did.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the Western Transportation
It's in our
Institute.
emails here.
Matthew, thanks for coming in for us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. We'll go ahead and let you get rolling.
Awesome. Are you able to make me a presenter so I can share my screen? I have a PowerPoint to run through.
Okay, you are the presenter.
Awesome. Thank you. Are you able to see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Excellent. Awesome. Good evening, commissioners and mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you all tonight. I'm going to talk about our pop-up traffic calming project that we did in partnership with the town of Ennis and MDT and WTI over the summer, and present some of the results and talk through some next steps. So traffic calming process, what is it? So we basically provide an opportunity to test out some different traffic calming measures that don't require actual construction or infrastructure built out. And it's a process that involves kind of iteration, a beginning, discussion, and actual build out. And so the process that we did began in July, and we'll kind of 2019, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So why do we do pop-up traffic calming? Well, it allows the community to come together and test out some traffic calming solutions. It's cheaper than an actual reconstruction project, putting infrastructure on the ground. It gives us an ability to actually collect data on the impact of the traffic calming. Also gives an opportunity to get community input and feedback as part of the process, see stuff on the ground and see how that happens. And they're changeable, removable, and easy to adjust. All right, so the process again, WTI was first reached out to in July of 2019, and conversations began through the winter to get stuff set and move forward with a pop-up traffic calming project in the summer of 2020. Discussions happened between WTI, the town of Ennis, MDT, and then COVID-19 hit, and that kind of put a little bit of a wrench in everything. The initial plan had been to conduct a walk audit actually in March. Because of governor and state orders limiting in-person contact and group meetings, the actual walk audit was pushed back until early May. And at that time, we were only allowed to have a group of 10 or smaller. And so the walk audit did happen, and it consisted of members from the Western Transportation Institute, the town of Ennis, the Montana Department of Transportation, the Chamber of Commerce, as well as some residents of the town of Ennis. And so after the walk audit happened, WTI worked with the town of Ennis and MDT to develop some sketches for traffic calming, and then into the actual installation, data collection, removal process. So part of the walk audit then is to actually get the community input and have the community develop a goal for the project moving forward. And this is the goal that was developed by the town of Ennis. It was our community goal is to improve safety on Highway 287 in downtown Ennis for a variety of users, pedestrian, bike, vehicle. By reducing vehicle speed and increasing pedestrian bicycle visibility, we hope to increase user awareness for a safe and active downtown Ennis. And so this community goal is what ultimately then kind of drives the process forward of iterations of the different sketches and into actual installation and data collection. So post walk audit, it was decided that there would be curb extension, crosswalk installed at 4 different locations on Main Street. And so 3 of the locations already had existing crosswalks. One of the locations was actually would be a new crosswalk where a curb cut currently existed. And so in addition to that, it was decided by the commission to do a realignment of Main Street in front of the shed horn to adjust the traffic flow and patterns there. And so, all right, so here are the sketches of the installations that were actually approved by MDT, as well as the commission with help from WTI staff in the sketches. And so the Main Street realignment and the First Street crosswalk. So First Street currently had a slightly diagonal crosswalk that exists, creating a crosswalk that was almost 100 feet long. And so in the proposed plan, the goal is to straighten the crosswalk and shorten it up a bit, and then also put curb extensions on so that the pedestrian crossing distance would actually be shortened, with the goal of increasing pedestrian visibility, increasing safety there. In addition to this, some parking spaces were removed on both ends to create visible line of sight for cars at the intersections and turning onto the Main Street. The second one then is the Second Street crosswalk, which is a crosswalk that already exists. The goal was curb extensions, again, to shorten the crossing distance, keep the alignment of the current crosswalk as is, and make that one happen. The other existing crosswalk is at the south end of town, adjacent to the Willie's Distillery. And the goal with this one was to create curb extensions, remove some of the parking for line of sight visibility, and then also shorten those crossing distance and increase visibility of pedestrians waiting. And then the Third Street crossing was actually so it would be like a pilot crosswalk in a place that one didn't exist. During the walkout, it was identified that Third Street is already used frequently by pedestrians to cross from the parking lot on the adjacent side or across the highway from the gravel bar. And so crosswalk was proposed from the Third Street curb cut across to landing in the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street. And so in addition to curb extensions and the striping of a crosswalk, a temporary curb ramp was placed that would meet ADA requirements for people coming on from the street up to the crosswalk there. And then the final traffic calming measure was the realignment on Main Street in front of the shed horn. And so it turned the traffic flow and removed the ability of cars to go straight into the intersection there, removed some of the parking spots for line of sight, and made more space there in front of the shed horn sports. All right, so those are the actual sketches that were finalized and approved by MDT and then used for installation. So installation actually occurred on August 3rd, and installation occurred in partnership between WTI, the town of Ennis was there, town commissioners, some town volunteers, and the local technical assistance program, which is part of the WTI as well, was there. They ended up training flaggers from the town of Ennis to be able to conduct traffic control during the installation itself. So installation was done on August 3rd. It was left in place until October 19th. as was approved in the encroachment permit that was submitted to the Montana Department of Transportation. So getting into the data collection and analysis and kind of talking through what we found out. So pre-installation data was actually collected between July 24th, between July 24th and July 30th. Post-installation, which sometimes the verbiage can be confusing in that it was post the install, but it was while the traffic calming was still installed. And so that happened between September 3rd and September 7th. Data that was collected was traffic speed and volume data utilizing MetroCount tube counters. Those tube counters were actually placed at the north and south entrances into the Main Street corridor. One was near the town pump station and the other one was near the Lions Park. So they were not actually in the direct vicinity of the traffic calming projects. And we can talk about, if people have questions about the reasons for that, we can talk about that after. And so, and then driver yielding rates and pedestrian counts were actually conducted using CountCam technology. Cameras were set up adjacent to the south end crosswalk by the Willie Street Distillery, as well as adjacent to the 3rd Street crosswalk, basically across the street from the gravel bar. In addition, there was a community survey created on SurveyMonkey. The questions for the survey were created in collaboration with the commission, and the survey went live on the day of installation, August 3rd, and it remained active until actually October 24th. So actually a few days post the removal, just to get any additional feedback from people. The community survey was available via a web link that was shared with the commission and spread out to the community. It was also available via a QR code that was on signs that were actually attached near the different crosswalks in the traffic installation. So getting into kind of what we found out. So I'm going to start with the community survey. There was about 411 total responses on the community survey, which in our experience of working on some of our other community projects is actually a pretty good response rate for the community survey. More than 75% of the respondents were either part-time or full-time residents in the town of Ennis. It is important to note that we didn't actually define resident in the survey, and so it's a self-identified resident of the area. 60% of respondents said that they traveled through the project area in vehicle, 25% as pedestrians, less than 1% on a bicycle, and 1% or one respondent was in a wheelchair and made that known in the survey. So there was a lot of community input, especially right after the installation happened. I'm going to talk through some of the kind of the data around the actual kind of safety components of the installation and the survey responses, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the common themes that came out based off of the number of responses, and that'll kind of tie into some of the next steps that we talk about in some of our recommendations. So question about whether or not curb extensions and crosswalks made people feel more visible to traffic. People felt safer crossing the street. So this question actually broke up just tonight to sharing kind of from the perspective of pedestrians and then drivers. And so when you look at the response across all respondents, it was 11% of people strongly agreed, with 50% of people strongly disagreeing, and then in between there. But when you actually break it down by the people that were traveling as pedestrians, actually 21% of people strongly agreed that the crosswalks and curb extensions made them feel safer, while 48% strongly disagreed. And then when we move on in the survey to look at it from the driver's perspective, drivers, only 10% of people strongly agreed that the traffic calming increased the visibility of pedestrians. There was some of the respondents in there actually talked about a lot creating confusion for drivers a bit, just of all the delineators and not exactly knowing exactly what was going on there. So just wanted to share that bit from the survey. There's in the final report, there's a much more detailed breakdown of the actual survey results. There's actually an appendix that has all of the survey results as well as all of the written answers from all of that. So you're able to kind of dive into that information more if you want to. So common themes that really came out from the community survey from this input, which is an important part of the pop-up kind of traffic calming projects, was the removal of parking was a very common theme. And so, you know, one of the reasons that parking was removed with the project was line of sight and visibility. And so being able to kind of talk through that with residents and being able to share, you know, the importance of parking for businesses, but then also how does that parking affect kind of visibility for pedestrians and everyone there. Other common themes were effect that it had on business. There were some people appreciated the traffic calming, the opportunity for the city to kind of try to do something to see if they could slow traffic down, make it a little bit safer for pedestrians in that Main Street area. And another really common theme that came out was opportunities for the community to be involved in the process that went on. Given COVID, I think things were a little bit different. The walk audit, you know, we couldn't have as large of a group as we would have liked to at the time, given the restrictions put in place by the number of people. Community events weren't really happening due to that. And so some of the opportunities to actually have that input and have that outreach into the community didn't exist. And so I think it's really important, and we'll talk next steps. I know the town is going to be moving towards a master planning process and really thinking about ways to make sure that the community is engaged in those processes. I know the Chamber of Commerce also conducted a business survey, and I believe they're actually going to share that information after this. And so they had shared those results with us, but I'm going to let Marshall kind of talk through that stuff. So on to the data of what we actually found. So at the south end of town on the crosswalk adjacent to Willie Street Distillery, one of the things that we looked at was driver yielding rates. And so we did that with CountChem technology. And then we actually went back and watched there's about 160 hours worth of data from both crosswalks that we analyzed in partnership with some students from the ITE, International Transportation Engineers group on campus. And so what we found was that driver yielding rates actually improved with the installation of the curb extensions. The data collected pre-curb extension, there was about 53% driver yielding rates. And so the way that data is figured out is that it's whether or not a pedestrian has already started to approach the crosswalk before the car is approaching, and then does the driver actually stop, and at what distance it stops from the crosswalk, or whether it stops at all. And so that's how we determine the driver yielding rates. And so there was an increase pre to post. So the curb extensions there definitely helped with improving driver yielding rates for that part. We did pedestrian count on the 3rd Street crossing. That one did not have crosswalk before. And so, you know, 2 weekdays and 2 weekend pedestrian counts, simply starting 6 a.m. and running until 7 p.m. With the video data, just going through and counting the number of pedestrians that go through. And so you can see weekday totals, 351 on the weekend, definitely a lot more. In our discussions with Ennis before the project, we were told, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday tend to be the busiest times in Ennis, given the tourist kind of people passing through, people coming to fish, to hang out, and on to other parts. And so in the pedestrian counts, you can see the busiest times of crossing at the crosswalks were around that middle part of the day on the weekdays. And then when we get into the weekend data, you'll see that it just kind of picks up kind of mid to late morning, and then actually has a decent number running through. There's certain standards that are set in place as to when crosswalks are deemed appropriate to actually be installed. It's based off of the average hour number of pedestrians, and that's how MDT then utilizes those kind of MUTCD standards and determines whether or not crosswalks would be necessary. And so next steps on this one would be looking at whether or not an installation of an actual crosswalk could happen there. there would have to be some infrastructure changes that go on in regards to like curb cuts on the sidewalks on the opposite sides. But that's stuff that's brought up in the next steps as well. And then finally, speed data. So speed data was collected via tube counters at both the north and south end of town. And it's difficult with the tube counters because we couldn't place them in the middle of the actual traffic calming with the angled parking, because cars, if they pull and hit the tubes in spots where they would be at an angle, it messes with the actual kind of data collection and the reporting. And so what we were looking at is the kind of gateway speeds on both ends of the project. And what we actually saw was average speeds basically stayed the same. There was a slight increase. The high end speed actually increased post installation on both sides of the project. One of them, I think, was 97 miles per hour was the speed that it tracked. The traffic calming project itself was really focused on kind of the Main Street corridor. And what this looks at is actually more the gateway speeds. I know about a week or two post our installation, there was actually a semi that rolled over on the, I think, which would have been the northbound approach into Main Street there, coming around the corner after the Lions Park. And so we'll talk about some of that in the next steps as well. So speed data definitely just showed that there was actually an increase in speed in cars during the installation. And so kind of coming into the next steps of where to go from the project, where the town of Ennis can kind of go from here with the project. So I think community engagement is a really important component. Pop-up projects give that opportunity to really test that out, to get that input from the community. And the survey results especially showed that like some people said, you know, they didn't necessarily know what was going on. Other people said they would have liked to have more input. Some people said they liked the idea of it, but they would have liked to be involved in one way or the other. With the city, with the town moving into a master planning process, it's a great opportunity to make sure that community engagement is really built into that process. There were actually a lot of really good survey responses, and some of them are highlighted in the final report of some constructive things that could possibly happen to help with some of that vehicle pedestrian interaction, pedestrian safety, keeping in, you know, the working with the businesses, getting everything set that way. So I think community engagement is a really important component. Gateway treatments, that's not something that we actually did with the pop-up project, but gateway treatments do exist, and they're projects that are done on kind of the edges of town, the gateways, to help slow traffic as it comes into town. There's examples, some are in the final report, of signage, of different kind of traffic control measures that can actually be used. Again, this wasn't what the pop-up project looked at specifically, but it is something that we can provide some input and direction on if that's something that the town is interested in getting some more information on. Another recommendation would be just to reinstall small curb extensions, possibly at 2nd Street and the Willys and the South End Willys Distillery adjacent crosswalk. Driver yielding rates did improve. And so when it came to one of the community goals around pedestrian safety and visibility, that definitely was an improvement there. And so since the town already purchased the materials and supplies that were needed for the pop-up project, they have that, and you have the ability to kind of take some of the sketches that were already approved by MDT and actually work on using those for maybe just a couple of the crosswalks, not take away as much parking. And then in those actual curb extensions, do some placemaking. And this was definitely a takeaway kind of lesson learned. The requirements of the parklet pedlet process through MDT and the fact that platforms actually have to be built out on the road surface. We can't utilize the road surface for placemaking. And so knowing that in advance, being able to work through the processes and trying to do some actual placemaking to possibly put some planters, some benches, some tables, chairs, things like that out, and create some more usable space there for the community. And then final one is just repainting the crosswalks on an annual or biannual basis, and whether that's working with MDT or the town taking it on, but creating that high visibility retro reflectivity can definitely help with visibility, driver yielding, as well as pedestrian safety. And so we just want to say a big thank you to the kind of the partners on this, to the town of Ennis for reaching out to us and letting us work with you all on this project. MDT for being involved in the walk audit and helping work through the plan approval process and the encroachment permit process and working with us on that kind of stuff. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to y'all if you have any questions for me, and we can go from there.
Corey, I'm going to start with you.
So you mentioned gateway treatments and that wasn't, none of the data that was collected had anything to do necessarily with gateway treatments, but do you have any, I guess, ideas for some gateway treatments here in Ennis?
So that was actually what I was kind of mentioning, is that off the top of my head, I mean, there's some communities that have done stuff. Ronan did like a gateway arch. It was actually on their main street, not on the state highway. There's actually just an article published about community Cortez, Colorado, down in southwestern Colorado. That's a rural community, and some of the gateway treatments they did. And so if gateway treatments is something that the commission would be interested in, we could definitely put together, a couple page just kind of brief on some of the data around gateway treatments, as well as some of the examples of different gateway treatments that do exist, because they have been utilized in Montana as well as in other states and communities around the country. But with this specific project, we didn't have anything really specific to those gateway treatments.
Can I ask, I want to ask one thing with that is when you're asking or talking about that, did the other projects you have run through a state highway where you're having to deal with MDT on these?
This was really the first big project that we've done where we have done traffic calming on an MDT highway. So this was really kind of like a pilot opportunity for us to be able to work with the community as well as working with MDT to start to work through the process to figure that out.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't hijack. Just thinking about that one.
No worries. Yeah, that's a great question. It was really like we were excited about it because it was our first opportunity to really get to kind of start to work through the processes with them and with the town.
Great. And just MDT did approve this project and everything that was done within the study.
Absolutely.
There's a question that several people have.
Yeah, no, we had to go back and forth. We actually went back and forth with them on some iterations in regards to the sketches to make sure that they were MUTCD compliant, which is the manual on uniform traffic control devices, which is what MDT pulls their standards from. And so that was kind of the iteration process, working with them and their safety engineers, and then going through the encroachment permit process. And that was why we had the removal date set of October 19th, because we wanted to make sure that they were out before any winter maintenance operations had to happen. And I think it literally came out like a day or two before it snowed. So everything was kind of according to what we had planned and worked with MDT on.
Awesome.
Did you see Karen's question?
Yeah, I'm only letting you guys go, and then I'll get the public.
All I wanted to say was to WTI, to Matthew, and then to his colleague Danae, who took another position. I think their boss is listening, David Kack, and I just wanted to know how great Matthew and Danae were to work with, and we hope we can utilize the skills and resource of WTI in the future, because they are a wealth of knowledge. So I just wanted to extend my thank you to their efforts to the project.
That's very good.
Thank you.
I have something.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thanks to Matthew for all his hard work on this project and sticking with it and just putting all this stuff together, and your report and everything was really good. I do have a few questions about the data. On the speed data, I was wondering if some of those really high speeds coming through since there wasn't very many, would that have skewed those, like if you were to cancel out the outliers, or did you already do that?
So because there was so few high-speed outliers, the traffic volume was in the 1,500 to 1,800 to 2,800. So there were so many vehicles that went through that those outliers would not really directly skew where the kind of average speeds were at. And it's possible that there could have been an error with some of those higher speeds, but they were also recorded very late at night, early into the morning. And so it is also possible that happened then.
So they're real.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe there would be any way we could coordinate on the same date with our speed sign and see if maybe for some reason those speed tubes were off a little bit or something, but I'm just trying to figure out why the speed would have gone up.
We definitely could look at that. We can pull all the data and look at the dates that we pulled it. And if you all could pull it, we could try to see if we can correlate. The high speed leaving town, does your radar pick up cars heading south as well, or is it just northbound traffic?
Well, on that side, you would have,
Coming in.
I guess you would call it northbound, but the other speed sign is well outside of the downtown area.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that if you can pull the data for that date range, you could send it to me and we could try to see and look if we could correlate some of that.
And then my other question was with the yielding rates on the curb extensions, would you say that's normal for a curb extension? Are we the same as any other curb extension that you've seen?
So I can't speak exactly to like the percentage change as to being in the average, but what we do generally see with curb extensions is that it does increase driver yielding. The goal is that what it does is creates a visible shorter drive lane, and it creates a shorter crosswalk and puts where the pedestrian kind of further out into the visibility. And so curb extensions do have the effect of increasing driver yielding.
And Matthew,
sorry, one last question on the question on the survey. Have you seen done any other surveys with curb extensions where people strongly disagreed that it was safer as much as it was in our survey?
This is my first experience at WTI with this large of a traffic calming project. We've seen, like I said, the fact that we have 411 responses is a lot. Most of our other community surveys have been in the 20 to 30 response rate because they've also been on smaller side city streets, not on an actual main street. And so I can't make a comment like that kind of statistically significant on that or not. Yeah, so one of the points of doing traffic calming is to try to slow cars down, and that annoys drivers. And so when you get the response from drivers that it was kind of annoying and that it was creating those issues, that's one of the things that it does is tries to slow that traffic down and make the pedestrian more the focal point of the streetscape.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
hey, Matthew, this is Lisa.
Yep.
Just to be clear, that the white cones that were used, those are temporary, and if curb extensions were actually put in, they would be actually concrete, landscaped, that kind of thing, and they wouldn't have the visual kind of distraction, except maybe I've seen them where it's just 2 posts at the end to shorten up to have the reflectors on them. But it was only, those were selected only because of ease and that they've been approved by MDT, correct?
Absolutely. For temporary traffic calming, the delineators are used because they're generally, easy to install and easy to remove. Definitely the number of delineators installed definitely kind of added to the look of more of a construction style zone. But yeah, if you were looking at more permanent installation of infrastructure, you would look at pouring curb, pouring gutter, actually creating curb extensions. And then yes, they do use delineators generally near the crosswalks for reflectivity, as well as to kind of signify the space and the edge right there.
Great, thank you. And then in regards to, I guess just the beautification, I guess that question kind of covered that, is that they can be landscaped and that type of thing to add a sense of beautification component to that. But we just weren't able to do that because of the policy that MDT had just written, that it had to be level. Is that right? Why we couldn't use the streetscape, I guess?
Yeah, so the parklet pedlet permit that came out in, I believe the updated one came out in June at some point, towards the end of June. And that states that, yeah, if you want to install a parklet pedlet, that it has to be a built surface off of the road surface. It can't just be placed onto the road. And then in addition, after the installation, we did follow up with MDT to see if we could even just put planters out onto the road in the spaces that have been created by the removal of parking spots and the curb extensions. And they said that you couldn't even put planters onto the road surface. And so in order to do that kind of parklet, pedlet beautification stuff, it has to be done with the actual platform style that's level with the curb and built up off the road surface. And so that was why in the next steps recommendations, if you did do a smaller scale version with just a couple of curb extensions and crosswalks, looking at before the installation, how could you actually design and figure out what a platform would look like, do some cost estimates, and then have that ready for installation when you do that project.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we had one public question. Why was webcam yield data collected at 3rd Street?
During the walk audit, it was brought up that why was webcam data collected at the 3rd Street crossing? Because there didn't have a crosswalk that existed there before. We wanted to do pedestrian count data to see if it would possibly justify to MDT that a crosswalk might be there. There had been discussion during the walk audit. I think it was the owners of the gravel bar that had brought up just the fact, the number of people that are using it, and that it could be a safety thing and a possible another crosswalk there. And so because of the fact that it wasn't there before, we wanted to do pedestrian counts to see if some of the numbers might meet what MDT standards would be at. So.
And Matthew, I also recall from the walk audit that at that intersection, there were already curb cuts there, like directing, like with the half domes. So it gave, for those that are disabled, it gave them that there is a crosswalk there, and in fact that there wasn't one there. And then also, I guess another question is that, did those pedestrian rates meet the standard for a crosswalk with MDT?
So the averages for the MUTCD, I believe, are 20 pedestrians an hour. And so breaking down what we saw with the weekend traffic, that there would be 20% per hour. I think that we have all of the data, and so it'd be something for a conversation between like the town of Ennis and MDT to actually talk about and see thoughts on that. Again, there are curb cuts and truncated domes that exist on one side of the street, but in order for that to happen, there would also have to be curb cuts and truncated domes and everything placed on the other side of the street adjacent to either one, because of the fact that third streets do not actually align directly across from each other. So yeah, and we have that data and everything, and that's all in the final report as well.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other public questions for Matthew?
Yeah, I have a question, Matthew. My name is Brittany Hirsch. I know you said you hadn't done any research in the past with towns that have a highway that is considered their main street. So this might be kind of a tough question, but I'm a little curious, and I know there's other members of the town, on the safety of putting tables and chairs and a place for people to sit right next to a highway. So I don't know if there's any comment or data or research on, you know, any sort of safety concern, if there is any at all, or if there, you know, what's done to kind of protect the people proposedly sitting right on the side of the road, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And there is a big issue with the safety thing. And so any of the surfaces that are built up off the road, there's actually standards that MDT has in their parklet and pedlet encroachment permits as to how those are built to actually have some sort of crash barrier that exists on the actual platform parklet pedlet. So you couldn't just put like a flat platform and put a bunch of tables and chairs on it. There has to actually be some sort of a buffer that would be between the traffic and where people are sitting. And so whether that buffer is created through like durable planters or actual railings, welded, wooden, different styles like that, that does create that safety buffer. So you can't just place kind of like an open platform and have tables and chairs out there. Because that is a really good question when you have a busy main street, and what that looks like and how you meet that. There are a lot of communities that are doing that. Given COVID, there's been an increase in kind of that cafe style, moving things out that way. But there are specific standards that go into the encroachment permit before you can actually do an installation and do something like that. So that's a really good question. Thanks.
Okay, just to piggyback on that, I guess, would the pop outs like that be the responsibility of members of, you know, the town to upkeep, or people that own the businesses right in front of them to keep them clean, tidy? You know, people are going to be eating, drinking. Yep. Hopefully there's maybe trash cans there. Is that something that's paid for by town of Ennis, or, you know, whose responsibility is it to keep them?
So that's a great question as well. So the way it works with the parklet pellet encroachment permit is that the town actually applies for it through MDT. The town pays MDT a certain fee based off the parklet and pedlet, and then the town manages it however they want to do that. And so if the town would want to charge businesses to use this or have input that way, or if it was a town kind of good in service provided, that will be something that is determined by the town once they take control of that parklet and pedlet from MDT. So there's actually different options that are kind of available to make that happen. But the process is that the town actually becomes the kind of like permit holder on the parklet pedlet, that they pay a fee to MDT, and then the town does their management of it how they want.
Thank you.
And Matthew, thank you. Matthew, as a follow-up to that, you know, one of the things that we have encountered before is that it is a federal highway that comes through Ennis. And so, and MDT has had, you know, tight control over it because, you know, ultimately they're responsible. So do you think that the policy, the parklet pedlet policy that they have passed, and I believe Butte has passed a policy that then coincides with theirs, is that giving the town more freedom to do with their main street as they see fit as far as, you know, using it for, you know, economic development as far as outside seating or placemaking and gathering spots, you know, of course, non-COVID area to, yeah, be a benefit to public use.
Yeah, that's so that comes into maintenance agreements and all the other stuff. When you actually talk specifically about the parklet pedlet thing, they're temporary. They can't be kept there year round. Again, it comes back to the winter maintenance thing, and I think that towns, Dwayne at the walk audit had mentioned that, you know, towns, in order to take over their Main Street, would take over the full maintenance agreement and everything that goes along with it. I don't know that actual process. I can't speak to that. And so I don't want to kind of get into that. But I think what it does is it gives the town a little bit of an ability to do some seasonal kind of economic development on their Main Street. Whether, you know, you build out the little parklet pedlet and you're able to put a park in or put a cafe style seating for some of the businesses to have more outdoor seating. It gives the town the ability to have a little bit of control over a portion of that road space, specifically for where the encroachment permit has been approved and where the approved structure is installed. And so yes, I think it's a tool to use towards being able to have a little bit of that kind of economic development on your Main Street.
I have a question. I was wondering if you can elaborate on the parklet pedlet and curb extensions, and more importantly, what's the difference between parklet pedlets and curb extensions?
So generally what happens is when you could do a parklet pedlet without a curb extension. In the projects that we did, the curb extensions created space for what we had hoped to do parklets and pedlets within. And so the curb extension is actually the traffic calming tool where you see the curb has been moved out towards the crosswalk to make the crosswalk shorter, to bring the pedestrian closer out there, to make them more visible to drivers, and then to make the crossing distance shorter. Generally, what happens in projects is when you do a curb extension like that, you end up with the space. And so people do parklet pedlets. The town of Butte is a great example because they actually just did a parklet pedlet and they didn't actually do any curb extensions or anything else like that. And they just didn't, they built one out. It was fabricated. It's actually really nice. There's a news story on it with some pictures. And I think there's a picture of it included in the final report. But that was just an actual parklet pedlet that was put out. So you don't have to do curb extensions to do parklet pedlet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public questions for Matthew? Okay, Matthew, I want to thank you. You guys, your team has done a phenomenal job with this. It was really well put together, and we thank you for everything that you've done for us, and hopefully we are able to work with you guys again in the future. You've done this thing was a little contentious at times, but you guys have weathered through and done a fantastic job, and we appreciate everything you've done.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It's been great working with you all on this. Thank you for the opportunity, and yeah, we look forward to hopefully working with you on some more stuff in the future.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful evening and happy holidays.
Same to you. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the Chamber of Commerce Main Street demo comments.
My name is Danica Lewis. I am the Ennis Chamber of Commerce Board President, and I'm just going to be speaking to you guys a little bit tonight. Mayor Levitt and Commission, thank you for giving us some time on the agenda tonight. We appreciate it. The purpose tonight of why we requested an agenda item is to kind of discuss the results of the chamber-led survey, as well as discuss and understand the intentions of Town Commission on how the study information will be used and implemented in the future. So to kind of go into the information that we were able to collect to date, Our chamber survey received 345 responses from the community, and out of the 42 businesses on Main Street, we had 39 responses. So only 3 businesses that we didn't hear from. So that was a pretty good response, kind of mirroring what Matthew said about this survey response. 345 people from a town of less than 1,000 is a good chunk. So the overall responses were generally heavy to one side, meaning that the majority of respondents were in agreement with one another, making the results of our survey a strong representation of the general attitude of our community. The chamber broke down our survey into 2 groups. We have our general community survey, which was online, and then we also had our business survey, which was conducted in person with each one of the business owners. So I'm going to go ahead and just break down a couple of the highlighting questions that we have on there. And again, this was published publicly in the Madisonian, and it's also still available on the chamber website. So that information is able to be accessed by anybody who's curious to see it. Going into kind of some of the heavier questions, the general community, I'm going to get into that one first and just touch base on that. Do you believe that there was a safety issue with crosswalks before the study? No, 92% of the respondents said no, they didn't believe that there was a safety issue. Well, we had an 8% that yes, there was a safety issue. Is the town commission's recommendations for parklets something that you agree with? Again, no, 93% of the respondents answered no, yes, 7%. Do you feel like the community was properly notified of the installation of the study parklets? No, 95% of those who answered our survey said that they were not aware or properly notified that the installation would be going in. Do you feel like this process has been explained to the community on how Town Commission will approve or deny this project at the end of the trial? No, 93% of 345 people said that no, they do not understand how the Town Commission plans to use this information and move forward with it. Do you feel that it is safe for those parklets? Do you feel it's safe to use the parklet, for standing or sitting? Kind of something that Brittany Hirsch was just asking about. No, 92% of the respondents said that they didn't feel safe sitting at a parklet bump out off of the highway. 2% said unsure, and 6% said that they would feel safe sitting at those parklets. Do you believe, the last question I want to touch on from the community, do you believe that an increase in signage / different signage type would be better than the current parklets? 88% of the respondents said yes. So should we go something like a gateway approach or different signage, flashing signage? I think that most of the town is in agreement that that would probably have been a better approach to this problem. As far as our businesses goes, this is obviously the part that is very important to us as a Chamber of Commerce. We understand how much that parking means to the businesses in downtown, and not even the businesses in downtown, but just being able to stop and stretch your legs if you can't find somewhere to park. We hear about that all the time. As a business, do you feel like your property value and business opportunities have increased or decreased with the addition of the parklets? 38 of the 39 businesses said that their business value decreased with the addition of their parklets. As a business, have you lost parking? Yes, 16 of the 39 businesses lost parking. That's about half of our businesses to lose parking. We weren't able to get an accurate evaluation of parking spots in Ennis, specifically for our county, Madison County. I know that for Gallatin County right now, they're being valued at about $10,000 a month in revenue for each business. And so being that we are a little bit smaller town, obviously we aren't going to meet that same number, but I think it's important to point out that each one of those parking spots lost is a loss in revenue for our business. Do you believe that the increase in signage / different signage would be better than the current parklets? This was specifically asked to the business owners. 37 of the 39 business owners believe that just different signage or different approaches would be better than the parklets. And these are the ones that are important to me as the representative of businesses in town. Do you feel that you were properly notified as a business of the installation of the parklet? Yes, 0. 0 of the 39 businesses downtown felt that they were properly notified before this project took place. Do you feel that this process has been explained by Town Commission on how they would approve or deny the project at the end of the trial phase? And again, this is the business owners in town. Yes, 0. 0 businesses downtown feel that the Town Commission has explained to them how you choose to move forward with this information. Has the liability or maintenance of the parklet been explained to you should you be a business with a parklet in front of you? Yes, no businesses. Again, 39 of the surveyed 39 businesses downtown feel that the commission has not properly explained to them the liability or the maintenance that they could see should these parklets be approved. Do you feel like the removal of parking spaces was accurately described to you? No, 37 of the businesses and only 2 of the businesses didn't have that question applicable to them. So again, just not very much transparency from the commission on how this was going to be implemented. And then out of the businesses, would you like to see Main Street return to its prior look? 38 of the 39 businesses said yes. Since 2015, reports began to be compiled by the Ennis Police Department. There have been no filed complaints regarding traffic. There have been no incidences involving pedestrian or motor vehicle collisions. And local estimates see that, nope, never mind. Never mind on that point. But that kind of just concludes me going over the respondents of our survey. I think the main reason why the chamber tonight wants to be here is just so that we can hear from the town commission specifically and discuss how it is that this information is intended to be compiled moving forward.
Is that a question?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, thank you for your comments there. What will happen with the information that we've got is we are starting our our master plan, master plan, and this will be put into, and if the commission decides within the future that this is something that they want to move forward with, then we start the process of community engagement and whatnot. I mean, it's all down the road and put into the master plan itself. And so if the public wants to be involved in it, we plan on trying to put them in there. But I mean, we're sitting here in a meeting right now, and this is how most of our meetings are. Actually, less people are in these meetings most generally. And it's oftentimes responsibility of the community to come and find out the information. The information has been out there. We've been talking about this, as Matthew brought up, since July of 2019. We did the walk audit, and I know for a fact, Jason and Lisa can confirm on this, that several of the businesses were actually contacted and talked to about the process. The parklet part of it that you had asked about was the maintenance and whatnot is something that comes down the road on the other side of this, as Matthew had described. That wasn't part of the actual study. The parklets were put there to see how they would function and how the extended crosswalks would function. The actual maintenance and whatnot is part of the actual project that comes down the road. And then one other thing I want to throw in there from your survey was the safety concerns. Do we have to wait until something happens before we do something, or should we not be trying to do something? This is one of the things that concerns me is, and we're trying to be proactive. In 2016, we had a large number of people come to us saying that there is a safety concern on Main Street, and I think it's better for us to be proactive and make sure that we don't have an issue rather than waiting until something happens, because as soon as something happens, then they come to the town saying, why didn't you do anything? They come to MDT saying, why didn't you do anything? So we were trying to be progressive. This wasn't the first step or the only step. It was the first step of attempting to make our downtown safer. Not everything works. Obviously, there were things that people didn't like, and we've heard what they had to say. I can't say that this was a perfect process. No one was maliciously trying to do something wrong like has been accused of us. We were trying to help and improve this town like we do every single day that we're trying to do these things. Hopefully I covered, I think I got a couple of these things answered that you had. If you have any other questions, go ahead.
I know
I
that
have a
Marshall
comment.
was on
Go
the
ahead.
initial walkabout with you guys back in May. And speaking with him, I mean, he can chime in if you would like, but speaking with him, I feel like, and actually some of the business owners that were on that walkabout as well, that the town was misleading in the attention of how this was going to be implemented and how this was going to roll out. And so with that being said, why is it not clearer in public record that this was going to be happening? Because I have gone through past meeting minutes, commission meeting minutes, and there was never really a very clear indication of what was actually about to take place.
You're right, and we could have definitely done a better job of communicating more to the, I'm not going to disagree with that, communicate more to the public as that, but as Matthew had stated, with the COVID coming out, that's where a lot of our public outreach would have taken place. And rather than waiting another year for this, we decided to go ahead and get the project rolling.
Well, I have to say,
So
Blake, your first response.
I'm sorry, I do understand what your frustration with that part is, because we definitely could have done better with that.
So I just wanted to say that I personally went down and I talked to Plain Jane's, Shedhorn, Berkshire Hathaway, and Hayden Outdoors, because they were directly affected by the parking. I sent emails to everyone with all of the plans. And actually I have an email here that I sent to Jonathan Nutt. Just says, my name is Jason Schroeder. I'm a commissioner of town of Ennis. I'm writing to let you know that we will be setting up a temporary traffic calming project. We have not yet set a date. I have attached the plans for you to review. Please let me know if you have any questions. And that was the same, pretty much the same email that I sent to Rob at Shedhorn, Melinda at Hayden Outdoors, and to Plain Jane's.
Okay,
I
so
didn't
Jason,
go
you
to every,
personally reached out to 5 businesses out of the 42 on downtown Ennis, and you think that that is proper public announcement?
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying I contacted the businesses that were directly affected by the parking being removed.
I don't think that there's any reason to kind of beat the dead horse on the communication that did or did not happen at the beginning of the project. But I do think that it is important for the town to recognize that the animosity and the problems that this parklet study has caused was directly influenced by the lack of communication that was given to the business owners, by the lack of communication that was given to the town. And through this entire process, I don't feel that people have gotten the impression that their opinion or their understanding matters to the town of Ennis. And in a town of about less than 1,000 people, we really don't know where we're at right now. That matters. And so this survey, while it's not scientific study, it's not speed, it's not camera motivated, it is something to be taken into high consideration, being that these businesses are what drive town. And on top of already dealing with the Madison River negotiated rulemaking and everything that's going on there, I think that the majority of business owners would look you straight in the face and tell you that this year was not the year to sneak in some type of study like this.
Yes, we, as commissioners, we represent the people of Ennis, and in my opinion, we need to do what the people of Ennis want to do, not what we want to do. And that's how I approach everything as far as being a commissioner.
To go ahead and just close up this time, I appreciate that you guys kind of heard the survey results, take them into consideration. It's something that moving forward, I know that a lot more transparency and communication with the town and the people that this is directly affecting is going to go a long way. But what I do want to say to that point, Jason, is that I know talking to different people, while the general consensus is that this isn't the way to do it, I think that there is an appreciation for the town commission and the foresight of seeing that it could be a problem and it's something that we would rather solve sooner than later. We just need to be doing it the right way. I think gateways, flashing signage, I mean, we've already seen a speed reduction with that sign on the northbound or north entrance of town. And so it's just small steps and doing those steps that are involving the community, involving people, and we wouldn't be having this backlash.
Thank you,
Were
Danica.
people open to a gateway?
I think I think what we can all learn, because as Matthew said, this was a pilot project. I think the town entered it in good faith. WTI started with the project in 2019 when the town reached out to them, but there was also a 2018 workshop that was conducted with Mark Fenton that several community members were a part of on that as well. And I completely agree with you that there was a communication breakdown, and we're hoping that this now highlights the master planning process and that we want the community to be involved and that we work better together. And so when this process of the master planning comes apart, that the community can come together and work towards a common goal. And so we look forward to working with the chamber and other area organizations and community stakeholders in coming up with the master plan. And that's what this data is. And I agree with you that there wasn't enough information of what this data was used. This wasn't a, yes, we're going to install this, or no, we aren't. It was a tool to use towards a planning process, which has been long absent in previous years. And so if we can come together and make a roadmap together of where we want to go, all the better. So thank you for your input. It is well, it's received. So thank you.
Just like as a personal question, does any of the traffic calming intend on solving the problem that we've been having these last few years with the semi rollovers? Is that part of what this discussion entailed, or was that just, is it mainly the pedestrians?
It's a start. You have to have thank you for that question. It's actually a good one. It's the start of the process. You have to roll everything along. You know, as we've been paying attention a little bit, government works very slowly, and you have to take each step. And as we get one part of the project down, then you can move towards the next part, and the next part is you've got to take steps. And this was what we felt like was the first step. Well, it's actually the second. We did put the sign outside of town, and we're trying to work towards the safety of the town itself. So the coming into town is things that are on our radar at all times, and just it's all part of a bigger plan. And that'll actually be circled around. We've kind of been scattering around, and the master plan will help us focus in more directly on taking care of issues such as that entrance into town. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, Blake.
Yeah, sorry, I scatter around a little bit.
All right, well, thank you guys for letting us give a little information tonight.
Thank you, we appreciate you coming on. Okay, the roll.
Is Kelly on, John, or do I need to take this?
I don't see Kelly unless he's on his
Caller 1 or 2.
He
Kelly?
usually calls in with his cell phone.
Kelly, are you on? Okay, get someone's up on you.
Anyway, Dan was here from Rural Water today, and I worked with him and Kelly on quite a few numbers. But when we got down to it would be residences in town and what we sent out in bills, there was a discrepancy, and it was almost half. Kelly's information showed there was 361. When I pulled the number of bills that are mailed each month, it's around 690 or 650, yeah, in that range. Anyway, so that makes a huge difference in our rate structure. So Kelly said he needs to contact the person where he got his numbers from and find out where they came up with that 361. Because our numbers are accurate as far as how many bills.
690 on residential, that's not.
No,
All total.
That'd be all total.
I'm
But
sorry,
even with-
Ginger. Can you repeat that? I'm missing the context of the 300 something versus the 600 something.
Okay, so Kelly had gotten some information, and I think it might have been some census information. But he wanted to go back and check with the gentleman that he got that information from. On that, Kelly's numbers were showing 361, but that was like household units. So we don't think that it encompassed any of the businesses.
Okay,
Because when
thank
I
you for
looked
the
up
clarification.
Did you get the other part of the number of bills we send out is around 650?
Okay,
So
now
the
I
rate structure
understand.
might be-
Yeah, thank you.
And the number of accounts that we have has a bearing on our rate structure. And I mean, if we're mailing out, say 650, but we use the 361, I mean,
That's a huge difference.
that's a huge, huge difference. And it makes, I mean, it about halves what our rate structure would come out at.
So maybe that's why we're so low.
So, no, we just haven't done it in so long, Christie, that
It's still gonna be.
I don't know. It's gonna be dependent
So are we
on,
gonna do this again next?
So why does that, now that we know we have 650, why does that make it so we can't move forward with the rate structuring?
They have to redo.
Kelly wanted to recheck those numbers that he got to see. And I can't answer that, Jason, why. I mean, they made that decision that he wanted to go back and recheck those numbers that he got before they moved forward.
So what was the rate structuring based on the 300?
I think water came out, and this
Guesstimate.
Is there like a
around
equation or
48,
something?
around $48, and I think that was base rate.
What's the equation that they use for
I
this?
can't answer that. He had it on his computer, and, Kelly may have something.
Can we call him? I mean, this is on the agenda today. Why isn't he here?
I don't know.
This is something I think we need to forward,
Can I, since I was part of the conversation with this, the other issue is they take the median income and median households based off the census. The census is still the 2015 census. The 2020 census data doesn't come out for another few months yet. So that will also mess with the rates significantly because it depends on what our census comes back at. So they do need more current numbers than the 2015 number because that will also skew the numbers severely.
It would make sense to make sure we have the most current numbers.
I think we need to forward this through because what I had asked for was the gentleman to be here so you guys could ask these
Yeah,
questions.
I thought he was gonna be here.
That's what I was under the impression as well. And we had asked,
And
he was here today. He just wasn't here tonight, and that's why I wanted him here, so you guys could ask those questions, because asking Ginger, who was just helping
Did
him,
he say why he didn't stay?
he was
Did he
getting,
know we wanted him to be here?
Probably not.
And that was between him and Kelly.
Yeah,
So-
probably not. He probably just
And
meant to kill.
I was just trying to get numbers for them.
so she was chasing it down. So that's why I think we need to forward this through and get him in here so you guys can ask the questions that you need to, because right now, the questions you're asking are not being,
How much time will it,
you answer intelligibly, because she doesn't
how
have
much
the
time will it
answer.
take Kelly to get the information and stuff? Can we do a work meeting and meet with this guy, even Zoom or something, or like
Well, we just need to push this off to the next meeting.
next meeting?
Doing work meetings in December is going to be rough.
True, true. I
So is there
totally
any way
retract that.
we can make sure that Kelly comes to the meeting?
Well, yes, he was off today. I'm not sure the exact reason. I can't answer that one, but that's what I had asked for, was for him to be here so you guys could ask the questions. So I'll reiterate that again and get him in here so you guys can ask the questions and have the right information so you can make a proper decision. Because we don't have
Did
until.
they solve stuff today? Like, No.
My understanding, because I was party to part of the conversation, my understanding was with the mismatch in the numbers that Ginger had provided with them, as well as the census data not being up to date, being the 2015 census, that the numbers were going to be extremely skewed. So that's where I left the conversation.
what are we looking at on the 2020 census though? How long?
So I looked it up today. That's why I was part of the conversation. I looked up when it was out. It has to be out by June, but they say it should be out by April. So again, I'm not an expert on it. I don't know. I just was part of that conversation. I looked up when the census was coming out.
See, that doesn't seem like
Do we wait 5 more months?
seconds. We could go down this road. I want to wait until the guy's there. To me, it doesn't should not make a difference as to how many people are in here. We're either charging enough or we're not charging enough. Whether we have 360 or 650
Yeah,
people.
I thought we were gonna go through.
Yeah, that's,
And I don't know, I can't answer how
Do you want to?
significant the median income is in his formulation.
I have no idea.
I can't answer that, I don't know.
but that doesn't, do you understand what I'm saying? It shouldn't matter. If we're supposed to be charging another 5 or 10% or whatever it is, it shouldn't, the income doesn't matter as to whether we charge. Everyone gets charged the same base rate, correct?
Right?
Right.
So
what's-
So what's our base rate now? Do you know off the top of your head? I don't know.
1772 for water.
And it should be 48
And 27 something.
or 40,
for
yeah,
sewer.
48.
So based on the preliminary numbers, it was somewhere in the 40s. I don't remember what they said.
Water was 48.
But they were basing that off of
Increase.
300 connections. So if it's more connections,
That goes down.
it drops down.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter.
So we need more information.
Yes.
And like I said, we could sit here and talk about this. I'll just forward this on and push to have him on here again.
But it is important that we get our rates up to the state minimum so that we can get,
To that target rate.
Yes,
so that we can get
funding if
Funding.
needed.
Right.
And the way I've understood it is we're really high on sewer and really low on water, and that's what he needed to tell us, so. Again, we'll push for that again.
So on the agenda next,
Yes, I'll push to have him here again, so you, like I said, then you guys can ask the questions, because you've got good questions, and I have the same ones. But you need to have the proper information to be able to make your determination.
it's just kind of John Bancroft does a good job of pushing that, like, we need to do it now, you know? I mean, he's kind of got me, and it has a sense of urgency for me to like want to have a vote to raise it up at least 5%. At least we're like moving in a direction.
do we even need the report to agree that we need to bump it up to the
Yeah,
minimum?
because I tried last meeting. We need the numbers and everything.
I mean,
Because
we know
all
we
we
need to
can-
be at the minimum state requirement.
All we can raise, if I'm correct on this, and one of you two correct me, is we can only raise it 3% without public input, isn't that correct? Something along those lines. We can't go more than 3% unless we have public input, or maybe it's a vote here, and that's why I want the information here. So you guys have the proper information and we do this properly and make sure we have it and you have the information. But I'm pretty sure 3% is the most you can go up on a yearly basis without public input.
Right, and we're gonna need public input.
Yeah, because I think we're gonna have, if the numbers that they said are correct, we could go up to as high as 50% raise on the water side of it.
Wow.
And that's why that you guys having all the information that is available to you is more important than just about anything. Because if you're gonna make that kind of a hike or anything above a 3%, you're gonna want that, so.
And-
Rather than just doing it haphazard, I want you to have all the information.
And approval from Ginger and Susie, because they're gonna be taking all the photos.
We need to make sure to let the public know what stuff costs and why it's important to have the rates up.
And the last time we raised them and all the knowledge out there, so it makes sense.
You know, what problems we could run
Transparency.
into if we have breakdowns, or, you know, how much it costs to just replace certain things. It's astronomical.
Yes, it is.
And we don't have that kind of money in the coffers.
Correct. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to, we're gonna forward this on to the next one. And like I said, then we'll have it there. The library report.
You guys have any questions for me?
I guess not on your report, but. This landscaping plan,
Yeah, the landscaping plan, so that
do you need
was,
somebody to,
we received it just after Thanksgiving, a draft design from Solstice Landscape in Bozeman. And it is that, it's just a draft. Right now, I'm in the process of soliciting input from the various stakeholders. And so far, the consensus is that it will be simplified and just for to maximize in that small space in the back. I have not, you guys have seen it, the commissioners, but I have not sent it to other departments because it will change. I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of what we had in mind to increase outdoor use space.
is this something that Genera and Mike Casey have taken a look at? I see you wanted to put some junipers on that.
So,
Part of
so
their
Mike
land there?
is aware of our landscaping plans. I have not shown him this plan because we don't have a consensus on this plan. This is definitely a draft. And I have more questions for the landscapers, but he knows that a plan is coming.
Okay, because are they gonna have a in between the library and their building that ties into this?
I think they have to have a sidewalk in June too.
I don't think a sidewalk was in the plan, actually. I think it was discussed, but there was no, one wasn't needed in the actual plan. But it'll be probably in between the library and those buildings will be a wooden fence or a hedge, something to just separate the space.
Okay.
If I may, I think there was a meeting, it was in May, maybe of 2017, I believe, is when their zoning permit came before the commission. And I think there was talk of a sidewalk being between the library and the building to, I guess, that to the east, because they didn't want one to be put to the west. And it was talked about with the apartments in the back that there was going to need to be pedestrian access to Main Street from those apartments that are being provided. So I don't know if it's a possibility to review the minutes of that meeting and their zoning permit to clarify that situation.
I think that's a great idea because I don't think that is on anyone's radar, just from our previous conversations. Right now, we both refer to it as Mugger's Alley because it's so dark and kind of a useless space. But what I remember, and I do not trust my memory at all, is that some sidewalk space was given up maybe for parking on the other side. But yeah, that's a great idea to review those minutes.
I only distinctly remember that meeting because that was the first meeting I attended by phone, and I happened to be at the MSU conference up in Butte and attending the town council meeting regarding that building, the traditional neighborhood development zoning permit for that there. And I think there was a lot of talk about having a sidewalk there and then having it actually lit. So it's not exactly what you're talking about being called Mugger's Alley.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
bringing
so that was,
too.
I think that was 17, 2017.
I want to say it was 2017, maybe I know it was in May for sure. So
Okay.
2017, 2018.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so if we can review that, because they did not want to cut down the trees on the west side of the building
Right.
to preserve those. That was a really big priority. So
Okay, I checked with Art and he could not come up with a landscaping plan for that lot. So yeah, I'm trying to work backwards.
Yeah, exactly. So hope that's helpful. Thank you very much.
Hey, Karen, this is Corey.
Yeah.
I recently spoke with, I call him Pastor Dave. He recently took, I think a year ago, Ethan Coonard's position on Madison Valley Conservation District.
Yep, Dave Laufenberg, yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and he had mentioned to me if I had any ideas for pollinator gardens within the city limits. And I was going to wait for this on commissioner comments, but yeah, basically just bringing it up possibly for maybe to incorporate something like that into your landscape plan. Yeah, I guess that was, and just to orient myself, when I'm looking at the pamphlet that we have here, is this the front and this is the back of the library?
It would be the back, the north entrance.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you for your comment on the pollinator garden. It's a great idea. And I actually have some packets of seeds from David that I'm excited to use. Yeah, you're looking at the north entrance. And that particular space, so as you're coming through the street and back, that space takes up, if you can visualize it, the end, so the north end of the handicap parking going west.
Okay.
That makes perfect sense, I'm sure. But the idea is to both increase outdoor seating space and outdoor learning space combined.
Can we extend this all the way to the road?
It depends on how much parking you want to compromise. We definitely
don't take
talked
away a bunch
about,
of
I
the
talked
parking.
about
No,
with the land. Go ahead.
Just to spruce up the parking lot and kind of make it more where, because it seems like only a couple cars parked there. But there could be a possibility of, 10 or 12 spots.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. One of the things I had talked about with the designer was to maybe approach the north entrance in phases. To first think about the immediate property that's adjacent to the building, and then think about the parking area and that grassy space that accompanies the storage building that's there. Someday I'd love to talk about that. But
Okay,
anyway, the point
anyone
is this, I just wanted to give you an idea of kind of what we were thinking about with just that small space for seating expansion. And definitely this is just a draft. There will be, on the next draft, it'll be probably simplified, less seating boulders, if any. And I will talk to Kelly about winter maintenance.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions for Karen?
Nope, thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, move on to the ambulance. We didn't get an ambulance report, but I was going to put this in my mayor comments, but I'm going to put something out here and see what we kind of think about this. It was brought to my attention, or an idea was passed by me that maybe we put out an ad in the paper congratulating the hospital on the future acquisition of the ambulance, and then also putting a thank you out there somewhere along the lines of thanking all the volunteers that have been through this and done this service for this town. I think is a really good idea. Something I would like everyone to really roll around your heads a little bit, and maybe we'll get something going with that. I think we really should. I like the idea a lot. It'll help the hospital with their future rollout and make sure that the community
Transparency.
Well, not only that, but yeah, because they're gonna have to vote on this when it comes up, and so the community understands and knows what's gonna happen in the future there, and give them as much help as we can, because we want a viable ambulance service to continue. I mean, this place is growing and we definitely need it, but we also need to thank the people that have served this community for so many years. It's upwards of 50, close to 50 years that they've been serving this community. And it's something that I don't think would be a bad thing for us to do.
No.
But I want you to keep in your mind, I'll probably throw it on an agenda item next month. But since I don't have an ambulance report, I thought I'd throw something else in there.
This is Lisa.
I thought it was.
I think that's a great idea. I think we may want to talk with the hospital. I think they might be hiring a public relations firm or have some kind of coordinated public outreach component to that. So maybe if we can coordinate with them, so we're sending out the same consistent message, would be great. So I'm all for it. I know there's a lot of personal and emotional investment in the ambulance that people have contributed over the years, which is a really amazing fact that so many people have been so dedicated to the caring of their neighbors for a number of years. And so, yeah, I really like the idea.
Awesome.
Just to add on to the public communication aspect of the city council here, I think we should maybe have a board of communication or something, form some sort of board where we decide what's going to be put on the website every month or every week, and what's going to be put on the Facebook page every week, and, you know, kind of coordinate that and make sure all the stuff that we want the public to know about is posted, and maybe bring our website more up to date and just make it easier to navigate, where people like maybe have a, I don't know, easier way for people to get on there and just see what we're doing at all times.
I agree. That's not the place, the ambulance report isn't where it is. I agree with what you're saying. But we'll move on to the next thing. Nothing else from the ambulance. Let's go ahead and go to the police report.
You all have a copy of my written report. Any questions?
Any questions for John?
Good job, John.
Yeah, keep it up.
There's a question up there.
I don't know which one that was.
I think that was yours, Jason.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Good job.
I just had to put the time together.
Yeah, sorry it wasn't the appropriate time.
That's all good. They got out somewhere. Okay, any questions for John? Okay, we'll move on to the zoning report. Public Works, sorry, I already crossed off the other one. He's not here to ask questions too. If you have any questions, Kelly's most generally over in the shack. The shack.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna ask about water testing, and it's just right here on the report, so.
Oh, did you have one? I put one in from my house, actually. They're testing for copper and, huh?
Lead.
Oh, yep.
So can we, once the test's done, will we have a report that we can post?
Yes.
It gets posted annually on the website.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Plus, the EPA, is that it watches everything we do like a hawk, so. If there's ever problems, we'll find out really quickly.
So it says that there was random samples throughout town. So we would know on the report where each sample was from.
I think
I
that,
believe they list addresses.
yeah, but they were also making sure they got them from each well too, or each spot. And that's
Each
how they-
pump house?
Yeah.
One thing about, I guess it is Public Works kind of I had a comment about the sewer in the North 40. Whenever each property needs sewer, they have to cut into the road separately. So there's gonna be all these cuts like for every single different. I was thinking maybe there'd be a way to do like one cut and do a bigger thing that we can tap into outside of the,
Like a cluster?
yeah, within our easement right of ways that are in between each property. That way we don't have to cut into the road 100 times. Just a thought to bring up.
I thought that had been dug in before, which Kelly was here to ask that, because when they had initially done that, Josh actually put a lot of that in there, and I don't know, it's.
Blake, I know where you're going. Can I
Yeah, go ahead.
step in? It was missed in phase 5. Typically, they were having the stub outs done before the roads went in. And that was somehow missed in phase 5, and Kelly does have it on his radar for phase 6.
Because phase 6 does look much larger than the last
Yeah.
couple of phases.
But Jason, I know that Kelly and Josh had some conversation on stub-ins and et cetera, so you might check with Kelly and see if they came up with any conclusions
Okay,
or if that would work.
well, maybe I'll email Josh on that. as
Also,
well.
yeah, definitely do that and keep that in mind when it comes time for us to do the discussion for the phase 6.
Yes, that would come up. I believe that would come up in the preliminary plat as part of their conditions. And so we can certainly talk to him about that during that phase of the process. And maybe talking with Alex Hogel, he can give us some direction on that to make sure that they're all hooked up to water and sewer and they're not cutting through the pavement. And then it might also be worth having an agenda item of what the actual cost is and talking with Kelly, because I think the deposit is fairly low now versus what the actual cost is. And so sometimes maybe people don't do the best job because the cost, the deposit is not that much. And so they're willing to forfeit the
It's
deposit.
legit. This
Yeah, I mean, one example is right there on 3rd Street, right off of Main Street. That paved asphalt cut has been repaired several times and continues to deteriorate and is now a cost to the taxpayers when it should have been a cost to the developer of that piece of property.
Yeah, just so you know, I believe the deposit is $100. I think that deposit
No.
needs, is it,
It's 300 gravel, 500 paved.
did you hear that?
But Kelly said that 500 on a paved is nowhere close to what the actual cost is to have a correct.
So that should be a-
repair.
Yeah, we need to get that raised. I think we need to raise that deposit substantially to make it in the interest of the builder to make sure that's fixed rather than leaving it on that. Because what happens several times, I know over on
What is that?
Armitage, it's Armitage, they just still walked away from it because it was cheaper to make us do it than pay the deposit. So I think we need to definitely get that deposit up higher so it is in their best interest to go ahead and make sure that road's fixed.
Is that something we need to do by resolution or?
Let it, I'll have to look at the ordinance and see how it's set up, Jason.
Yeah,
Whether
because
it's set up by resolution or if it's part of the ordinance.
And then once
especially if
we
they have
find
to
out,
do
we
it
can
over
find out
here,
whether or
we
not
might
we
as well
put
get
it on
that
the
deposit
agenda.
up. So definitely, that's a good catch.
And if that's the only thing, I mean, we can work it in when we're doing business license.
Yeah, the other stuff,
and
yeah.
dog licenses and stuff. That can all be worked in at the same time to have the public hearings to cover.
All of it instead of doing one thing at a time.
Yes.
Super smart.
Speaking of which, will that be on next month's agenda?
The dog, all that stuff that she,
As long as we don't have I didn't know what we could go with the WTI stuff.
well, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, that was long enough.
Well, I thought we might have a few more people too, but that didn't happen. So, okay, anything else on Public Works? Okay, zoning. We don't have anything here. I thought Art was gonna be here for the annexation thing, but I just know he's still busy. He told me he's still busy, still getting stuff with the nice weather. People are still building like crazy because they can, which.
Yeah, if there's
Right.
anything to build on anymore.
Yeah.
We're gonna run out
Yeah.
of space.
Well, if I'm not, I think Josh has got all of his phase 5 sold,
He does, yes.
which is, that's insane that it just went that fast.
Yellowstone Club.
It's happening.
Yeah, who's all that? Okay, clerk report. Any questions for Ginger? Okay, we'll go to mayor comments. I just have a few things here that I want to.
One second, sorry. Requesting numerous requests for information regarding the Suzuki variance.
I'll get to that.
Blake will cover it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just saw it and was like,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
thanks, Ginger.
The place got that.
Okay, first thing I'd like to talk about, and something we need to talk about, is the street district. We need to get that will be on our next agenda. It was brought a little bit later. And Ginger will make sure that you have the information, but we're on year 6 right now, is that correct, of a 5-year plan? So if we want to redo this or re-up the street district, we need to get it on the agenda and get it voted through, or.
The yearly paving that Kelly does?
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, we use public works money for the first year of that?
Yes.
Thank you. So we're actually on our 6th year, so we need to get that on there. Ginger will get that information out to you guys as quickly as possible, so you're up to date on it and whatnot that way. The second thing is the Suzuki variance. We have a citizen who is contesting that a lot bit actually. Ginger had 70 issues of public.
290.
Wow.
Yeah, 90 of public records. I'm going to go ahead and set Mr. Greenbaum on this just to put us out ahead of things. There's probably, what do you say, 100 hours or more of information that we need to come up with.
A lot of it's been digitized, but I have to get an estimate because we have to provide him with a cost to provide him with all those public documents and all those public records to see if he still wants it. And literally it's 90 items, and some of the line items are multi-part. It's almost like a discovery request, not really a public records request. So there's some question as to whether or not we have to fill that or not. And that's why we need the attorney to answer that question.
So
Could you just elaborate what?
whoever's complaining, why didn't they complain before we did all the variants? That's why we have.
What are there, 90 of? 90 complaints?
It's request for records.
Public, so it's considered.
Oh, over all the
public
years and
information
this.
request. By state law, we have to provide anything that's turned in writing as a public information request.
Right.
So he's requesting public documents, meeting minutes, agendas, how people voted. There's a whole list of stuff.
And if you want to see that list come in, and Ginger has them available for you to look at.
So somebody,
At this point in time, I won't be printing them. We're just holding them on file.
Wow.
should we not discuss this? It's not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good job.
But anyway, yeah, please feel free to come in and I'll hold the file for you.
And as things, if anything materializes, I'll let everyone know, but I would like to let Jim in on this, and he's agreed to go ahead and look at it.
Are we okay with?
Yes, I feel good about it. It was more of a matter of information than a
When
request.
he worked for the Gallatin County Attorney's Office, this is what he handled.
Okay.
This kind of stuff. So
Perfect.
This is literally what he used to do.
Okay, and I talked about the ambulance thing, and then the last thing I'm gonna say this again. I've said this in every meeting since COVID has come along. The town as a general needs to be more judicious and make sure that they are wearing their masks. The masks are a huge help. The people that have followed through and done the actual masks has helped bring our numbers down. And we were at last month at 130 some cases. We're down to 41 now. We need to just maintain and wear these masks as often as you can when you're out in public. We just need to get through this. The vaccines are on their way. We're hitting in Montana. We just need to get through this. We need to be very smart in our gathering of people. As far as the town itself, we need to be thankful, really thankful. If you look around outside of this place, businesses are going down like crazy. They're shutting towns down. They're shutting all kinds of stuff down. And we're fortunate right now that we're able to have a relatively low case log right now. And we need to do everything we can to keep these masks on, keep ourselves safe, and do the right things. Try to avoid the public gatherings. I've had requests for things that would put people together, and I've denied that. I will not allow that. There's some great ideas, and I hope that this community continues on with them, because there's some fantastic ideas. When we get out of this, if we can maintain the ideas and the innovation that the business owners downtown have done, we've got a very bright future. There's some great minds doing some things, but we have to get through this pandemic before we go crazy. I've been the bad guy on this almost all the way through, and I'll continue doing it because the town's safety is got to be one of my #1 priorities. I've taken a little heat on it. It is what it is, but I'm not going to back down until we're through this. But like I said, the first set of vaccines are coming. We just have to be patient. Hopefully by summer, we're out of this. I don't know if that's the realistic or not, but it's hopeful. So again, just do the things that you need to do. I'm going to go ahead and move on to commission comments. I'll start with you, Corey. You got anything?
Back to what I said earlier about talking with Pastor Dave about doing pollinator gardens in somewhere within the city limits. One of the first areas I thought of were those little islands that we now maintain and that Josh awarded us in our subdivision. That
was a nice way to put
it. Well, they're I mean, they're an attempt at green space, but I think this would be a perfect use for them. I actually had one of my buddies who is responsible for the last 40 years worth of trails that are developed up in Helena. He's also created some ball theme parks up in Helena as well. I had him go look at those islands for that, and he was like, yeah, probably not gonna happen with something like that. But a pollinator garden, I think, would be a perfect use of those spaces. And if anyone else can come up with some other areas that they would like to see them put in.
Is that something that would go with the tree border, or is that something that would come in as a different project?
He has money to do that, so we wouldn't have to use tree board funds. This would be
So that'd be some
conservation
another
district.
project outside of it. Okay,
Yeah.
I just didn't know if that was tied with or.
Yeah, and he does want to do a presentation, I believe sometime in January or even February to the commission. So that's all I got.
Jason, you got anything for us?
No, I just want to reiterate on the communication. I think we should develop some sort of plan where it's, maybe there's a board of communication where we can decide what goes on the webpage and what goes on the, I mean, we don't have to like not put stuff on there, but just like there's something.
Maybe more stuff.
Yeah, more stuff.
One thing I would
More
say with that
communication.
is if we choose to do something like that, we need to make sure that they are sent to a class of some sort that has municipality, social media training. They have that out there, and that's something that we need to make sure that we have so we keep ourselves out of hot water.
I just think with everything that we need to have more means of outreach and communication, just because, you know, just us talking to people on our own constituents, you know, isn't enough. There needs to be somewhere where we can just put it out there and nobody can ever say, well, you guys didn't tell us.
Yeah.
They're gonna say that regardless.
Yeah, they are going to say that regardless.
Most of all this stuff that we didn't tell was told
Yeah.
in a roundabout way, when you really get down to it. So.
Yes.
It's called.
Not in their way, but.
It's called accountability, and that's, I do still like the idea that John Bancroft has for putting the illuminated sign on the front of the building that says when the meetings are. I mean, I literally had Sage Bailey, sorry Sage, ask me the other day, he lives on Comley, asked me when the town meetings, what time are the town meetings? And I took a picture of the sign on the front of the building.
That's been there since the beginning of
That-
time.
Yeah, since I was a kid, I think.
Well, it's when he drives out, and it's right there, and then he enters onto the main road, but it is, you can't really see it. It's just kind of blends in with the landscape, so.
Maybe we should make it yellow instead of brown.
You can buy those.
It's green and white.
It's green and white? I thought it was brown.
Green with white, 3 of them reflective.
John's gonna go down swing.
Yeah, what do you think?
I know, I'm waiting. Okay, do you have any comments?
Lindsay DeGroot sent an email. I don't know if all got it. She's gonna start, she's in the process of starting like a Madison Valley Community Center. There's, the first meeting is gonna be January 11th at 3 p.m. And she kind of wants a RSVP if we're gonna attend or go there, but she's a counselor. I don't know if you guys know Lindsay. She thinks there's a need for community type outreach type stuff in Ennis. So this is just a plan and it's just starting, but event space, drop-in daycare, co-worker spaces, recreational fitness stuff, community resources for families, educational community programming classes, mental health services, and a Montana State University Extension Center. So she has tons of ideas. I think we should support her and try to.
When was that again?
January 11th at 3. Do you want me to forward you this email?
Yes, please.
Me too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Need help.
I'm gonna barely remember what I'm doing 15 minutes from now.
Can we get over
Follow
Christmas?
Jason's, if you want to send it to me, I'll make sure it gets up on Facebook and the webpage.
That's a good, I like the outreach idea of that.
Especially right now, because everybody's interested. So the more the merrier, the more we post.
Do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, Lisa, you're up.
Thank you for the time. So my commissioner comments are just a couple of things. On, I can't remember, was it Thursday was
There
the
you go.
8th? Thursday was the 8th. In our last public meeting, Headwaters RC&D was there talking about how they were having a meeting about a document called the Community Economic Development Strategy document that was used for, it's basically a planning document to get more money for economic development. How are we going to overcome COVID, the challenges with that, specifically for Madison County. I was the only one from Ennis to participate. So I hear the calls for more town transparency, but that was at a public meeting. And I think there's also accountability for our public to participate as well. So I was there advocating for economic recovery from COVID. There is a survey out until December 15th with Headwaters RC&D. I would encourage our public to participate in that survey. So I know it's
on the meeting, but I wasn't
yeah,
on
no,
the
and I'm
meeting,
not
but you
saying
could
the council. I'm
the
not.
notes.
Yeah, so I'm not saying the council.
So they
I'm
sent
just
me all the
saying.
stuff from the meeting too.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you know, as a town, we were represented by myself, but there were no members of the public at that meeting representing Ennis. And so I just want to say that there is a public need for accountability and for them to participate there's many opportunities for them to participate. So maybe it is that public outreach in that we have someone who manages information all the time, that we set a budget for public participation to be more predominant in our process, because like I said, I was the only one, and that was, you know, it was advertised at a public meeting, it was advertised on Facebook, but yet
They
there was
sent
a
out
lack.
several emails too.
Yeah,
Several emails.
there were several emails going out, and it was just unfortunate that they're trying to put together this document and there was a small representation from Ennis. So I would encourage the public to participate in, it was called the Headwater, it's through Headwaters Economic, just because I saw Brittany's question. It was from Headwaters Economic Development Council. It's called their Community Economic Development Strategy. And once you have a guiding document, then that's where we can ask for funding for different economic things. When it's in government, once things are mentioned in a plan, then they can be funded. And so I would encourage that. And what was interesting out of that meeting is to echo Christie's statement on Lindsay's thing, is a call for mental health, community support, and those type of things. So I think that steering committee would be a great thing to be a part of. And that could also play a part in our master plan. And so I really hope that people participate in the master planning process. So
That's what I was thinking too about Lindsay's email this week. That's stuff that we should do in the master plan. That's stuff that we should try to address and think about.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's all kinds of
Exactly.
stuff surfacing now, kind of to go forward
Exactly.
with.
And to address Corey's pollinator garden, there's one probably about 25 yards behind you in the town of Ennis Green Space. So if you ever want to lend some labor to weed that pollinator garden, be great. So there is one. We're making headway. There is one.
Larry Brown has a huge one.
Yeah, make my office look.
So the second email I'm gonna send you guys, I sent you Lindsay's email. The second email is if anybody wants it, I'm just gonna send it. It's the synopsis of what the meeting was, the Headwaters one. There's notes on all of it.
Is that what she had posted?
Lindsay posted something.
Lindsay posted hers.
She just posted the Google Docs link to what Brittany was asking for.
Oh.
I want this to go till midnight.
Oh, stop.
Okay, anything else on commission comments? Okay, we'll move to claims.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion on claims? Okay, call the vote. Christie,
Hi.
Lisa, on
Abstain.
claims?
Abstain.
Okay,
For what reason?
What,
Aye.
yeah, why, what did we miss?
She didn't see him.
No, I didn't see him. I'm sorry. I meant to stop by today before I came over to Polaris, but I didn't see him. Sorry.
Not a big deal. It's just, I'm learning here.
Corey?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then,
Move to adjourn.
yeah, he's not here to do it.
Lower the voice.
All right.
Second.
Okay, Lisa, call the vote.
Aye.
Corey?
Aye. Aye.
Hi.
Thank you. Okay, that wasn't too bad.
No.
Good night. Thank you. Thanks to John Moore for setting up the audio. It's a lot better.
Happy skiing.
My kid is
Yeah,
harassing me.
thank you. Thank
I
you.
need
Have a good night.
Cross-country ski report, please.
The snow's looking good. I'll let you know by tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon.
Cool, thank you, Lisa.
You should.
All right. Good night.
So let me just get this straight. You want me to parent your kid if your kid's misbehaving?
Yes, go scare her. Go scare her.
I'm gonna tell you this, and I'll tell you this once, suck it up and be a parent.
She's texting me. She's like, Joey doesn't want to go to bed. She's gonna run away. She's trying to get out the front door. What? I'm the worst babysitter ever. What did she say? I'm like, what? Who is this child? I love growing. They get older, they get way better. That's
You know, I wasn't trying to dig on you about communication, it was more to address the.
You can give me whatever you want posted. If you guys have stuff you want posted, just give it to me. The mayor just has to approve it.
I'm not helping.
And because I'm the only one who's been through, God, all that social media training, trust me. It's,
That's what I was gonna say, is you have to.
I have.
Yeah, I figured that.
And that's why like all our Facebook comments are turned off, because you have to have a full-time social media person to literally monitor the comments. And if you delete a comment, you better document why you deleted that comment. You have a screenshot of before you
You
deleted
just
it.
have always.
I just have always turned off, so we don't have to monitor that page 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to make sure that somebody's not making a threat or somebody's not doing something that they're not supposed to.
What about as commissioners, can we like set up our own Facebook page? And
You can set it up as a town commissioner. That's totally separate from anything.
Okay, so that's the only thing I'm just saying, is that we should have some board or post of the feedback. I mean, during the parklets, it would have been stupid. But right now, with this other stuff, is there any kind of way to?
They can, so on the website, in the
You can leave
Facebook,
messages?
you can send it to Ginger. It says all public comments right on the front page. It literally says all public comments go to Ginger.
Okay,
It's in an orange box right
so
on the
there's
front
still a way
page.
to,
Yes,
Okay.
well, we have to allow,
Communication.
especially with the virtual meetings, we have to allow ways for them to virtually make comments if they're not attending.
okay.
So and that's Ginger, she's the town clerk, she's the one who's responsible for maintaining all those records. So that's just the easiest way for all of that to go. She has to maintain the records. So like if it would come to me, it would be stupid because then I gotta make sure she gets it, so she has to file. Yeah, if it just goes to her, that's perfect, and then she distributes it out from there.
Are we muted?
Can we,
If there's a quorum here, it's gotta stay active.
can we set up a tab on our, not our Facebook page, but our website for, specifically for the master plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well, that's easy.
and the master plan, whoever we pick is gonna start a website and do their own stuff too.
Right, but we
So
can
ours-
do a tab and link it right
Link
to
it
it.
straight.
Yeah, that's a easy. Yeah, that's so simple, it's not even
Okay, bye guys.
fun. Yeah.
That's so weird.
On that. That's a public works minister.
Okay, so my key doesn't work on it.
That's if you're a public works master, that works on that. All those locks are paid, except for my office and the judge's office. He's a public works master. So we got two commissioners here, right? So we're